College Green at the University of Pennsylvania. A handwritten sign with the words Kathy Change, 1950 to 1996, leans against the podium in front of the university's large stainless steel sculpture of the peace sign. A woman enters with a pushcart.
Sorry I'm late. I've had a bad day at the office, and I had to get everything in order, the pushcart and all its goodies. Well, oh, here we are. 23 years later, and Kathleen's still with us. As she said, I'm not checking out. I want to free my spirit so it can jump inside of you. The dean's office sent me here for a couple of reasons. First of all, I'm Asian American. That's pretty obvious. My colleagues assumed I might know something about Kathleen that ordinary people wouldn't, and they're right. I semi-identify with Kathleen Chang. As a sociologist say, it's hard to say just where ethnicity leaves off and personality begins. The other reason the dean's office sent me was I was right here when I was one of the 50 or so people who saw it happen. It's not easy living in a country where you're not exactly the norm. Kathleen's classmates at the Bronx School of Science called her chink and flat-faced. At least no one could say she was bow-legged like a daikon or short and squat like an eggplant. She was gorgeous. In an early photo, she's dancing outdoors with a young man spinning with her arm up in the air. And they're in front of a Save the Earth sign. But she's not at all militant or self-conscious. She's in the zone. Kathleen's parents didn't work in a restaurant the way my parents did. Her grandfather was the first professor of Chinese history at Harvard, and her father and brother were also professors. Her mother was a writer about utopias, no less. Well, Kathleen's own life was far from idyllic. At 13, when her parents divorced, she slit her wrists. At 14, when her mother committed suicide, Kathleen was the one who discovered the body. Just imagine the guilt. Her mother had overdosed on barbiturates after a fight with Kathleen the night before. Kathleen never finished college, which must have freaked out her family. But she married Frank Chin. Frank Chin, the brilliant playwright who wrote Chicken Coop Chinaman, the first Asian American show on Broadway. He was also an obnoxious, flamboyant, self-centered prick. Very different from most Asian husbands. The opposite, for instance, of my husband, Harold. Their marriage only lasted 5 years, and then she tried to take her life again. You might say that Kathleen spent her entire life preparing for the final moment. She kept a diary, which she spelled D-I-E-E-R-Y. She also added an E to her family name, transforming Chang to Change. The times were messed up, as they always seem to be in America. And Kathleen, she wanted to set things right. She had the exact same dreams most of us have today: equality, world peace, sexual freedom, and the legalization of pot. If she were alive today, she would be dancing in front of the detention centers or on top of the border wall. Kathleen started what she called the Transformation Party and ran as a write-in candidate for any available elected office. Her slogan was, "A vote for change is a vote for survival and fun." She said in the future, she would run in all elections, not only here, but everywhere, in every state of the union and countries all over the world. All this while living in an abandoned warehouse in West Philly. I might not be as flamboyant as Kathleen, but I do believe in change. In the dean's office, I help out with, what else? Multicultural matters. I'm the one they send out to events like this. I'm always on the go, putting out little fires smoldering on the left and on the right. They don't always approve of my politics, but but I'm still the one they count on to make sure that all's quiet on the Eastern Front. My husband, Harold, who's hiding back there behind the bushes, he works in the Penn financial office and makes twice as much as I do. He says we Asians have to watch our back in America. He says he hopes that I'm more pleasant at work than I am at home. What am I doing? Talking to a crowd of complete strangers about Harold. I must be losing it. You must think they sent you a crazy woman to talk about a crazy woman. Kathleen was convinced the feds were after her, and I totally believed her. As Harold said, Asian women who speak their mind aren't appreciated by the powers that be. I should know. Just yesterday, I received an email from the dean's office informing me that they were laying me off at the end of the semester for absolutely no reason. You know how hard we Asians work, twice as hard as anyone else. I've just spent a sleepless night running down the list of all my waspy colleagues in the dean's office, trying to figure out which one was Judas, which one had given me the kiss of death. When you think about it, it's amazing Kathleen lasted to only 46, just my age. The family had cut her off because she was a slacker, whereas the rest of them got to where they were by working their butts off. Well, I'm sorry. Kathleen worked her butt off too. She spent nearly 20 years perfecting her solo political demonstrations, her performance art. You could catch her show rain or shine on the Penn campus, Monday through Friday, and in front of the Philadelphia Museum of Art on Sundays. I was 13 when I first saw her singing and dancing in her homemade costumes. I especially remember a swimsuit with 2 large stars on top and a little red, white, and blue striped bikini bottom. She looked like Wonder Woman. I'd never seen anything like her. So strong, so beautiful. At Penn, both the officials and students treated her with benign neglect. Kathleen herself said that she felt like a freak, a pariah, and a fool. At 9 a.m. on a, oh, you over there in the flower dress? I advise you to pick yourself up off the grass and take your little girls home with you. This next little bit isn't particularly kid-friendly. I didn't ask you to lead, Harold. I see you tearing off before I make a spectacle of myself. Stay. Just stay and hear me out. He's gone. He hates it when I get like this. But Harold's not a bad man. Yeah, when I couldn't get out of bed this morning, he came over and he sat by my side. He held my feet in his hands. Oh, so at 9 a.m. on October 22nd, 1996, Kathleen left brown paper packets sealed in duct tape on the doorstep of her friends living nearby and the offices of the Daily Pennsylvanian. The packets contained her last thoughts. At 11 o'clock, she arrived on campus and set up a pushcart full of suicide notes right here in front of the peace sign. The peace sign that you pass every day on your way to class. So where were all those people who received her packets? Why didn't they show up that day? Let me ask you a more immediate question. I told you that I had been fired from the dean's office for no good reason. We could be in a recession any day now, and I don't want to mooch off Harold for the rest of my life. Now, I have never asked anyone for anything before, but here is a petition telling the dean's office to give me back my job. You're all good people, all dyed-in-the-wool liberals. Okay, hands up. Hands up if you will sign this for me. What? No customers? Fine. Have it your way. As Kathleen once said, my charisma registers high on the negative scale. Well, let me ask you something else. If this were a real gas can, not just a prop, which it is, believe me, would anybody here rush up to save me? Don't avert your eyes. Don't even blink. I am about to show you how Kathleen lit the match and set herself afire. Harold and I were walking through the campus that morning having one of our muted arguments, when suddenly, just on the other side of the green, whoosh, a flame leapt up 10 feet into the air. Harold tried to stop me, but I ran towards it. And the moment I got close enough to make out a human form at the center of the flame, I knew it was Kathleen. She was dancing, not kneeling in prayer like the hundreds, yes, hundreds of protesters who immolate themselves in Tibet and India. Kathleen was going out in a blaze of glory. I still have dreams of a fireball dancing with human hands and feet. Hopefully it wasn't unbelievably painful for her. Hopefully she was in the zone. Kathleen's last performance piece was planned months in advance. She thought no one would pay any attention to her unless she did something spectacular. In India or Tibet, Kathleen's death might be seen as a noble form of martyrdom. But this is America. The president of Penn was obviously embarrassed that such a senseless and tragic loss of life could have taken place on his campus. Harold said Kathleen should have died on her own time. She should have died the way her mom died, a sad private death. She should have thought twice before making a public spectacle of herself that made people think she was nuts, that all Asian Americans were nuts. I wonder if Kathleen noticed how slimy this stuff is. It seems that every few weeks, crazy Americans go on shopping sprees in schools or movie theater complexes or shopping malls. They take it out on others. Kathleen Chang inflicted harm only on herself. She was disturbed, I know that, but she was very brave. It takes guts to be a martyr for your cause. At the end of her diary, Kathleen wrote, "Call me a flaming radical burning for attention, but my real intention is to spark a discussion of how we can peacefully transform our world. America, I offer myself to you as an alarm against Armageddon and a torch for liberty. All these years, I have tried to imagine how a woman like that felt in her last moments. Call me a freak and a fool, but I am drawn to Kathleen, like a moth to flame."